It's June 13th, 2019, and this is your tech moment. Break Facebook encryption. Richard Lawler writes, Microsoft's built-in Linux kernel for Windows 10 is ready for testing. Just as promised, Microsoft has delivered a build of Windows 10 to members of its Insiders Beta program that includes Windows Subsystem for Linux 2. It was announced just last month at the build event, should bring much faster I/O performance than the previous emulator showed. The company's command line blog has more details on how to make it all work, but for real-world benchmarks, we'll have to wait for testers to update and interface with it using Linux distributions that are either sideloaded or installed from the Windows Store. Read all about the details over at Engadget. Gareth Corfeld writes, UK Home Secretary kickstarts US request to extradite ex-WikiLeaker Assange. UK Home Secretary Sajid Javid revealed this morning that he has signed papers to have Julian Assange extradited to the US. Speaking on BBC Radio earlier today, Javid said, "There's an extradition request from the US that is before the courts tomorrow, but yesterday I signed the extradition order and certified it, and that will be going in front of the courts tomorrow." Javid's certifying of the U.S. extradition request lodged this week is the first formal step in having Assange sent across the pond. The next phase is tomorrow when Belmarsh Magistrates Court will set a date for a full extradition hearing. After that, assuming a district judge, full-time professional magistrate, okays the extradition, Javid himself will make the final decision on whether or not to send the one-time chief WikiLeaker to America, as UKGov's website explains. It is almost certain Assange will file an appeal to the High Court after the district judge's ruling, and again, as the law allows, after the Home Secretary's final decision. Details about what comes next are available over at the Register. Jai Vijayan writes, SQL injection attacks represent 2/3 of all web app attacks. Cyber attackers have several vectors for breaking into web applications, but SQL injection continues to be by far their most popular choice, a new analysis of attack data shows. For its State of the Internet report, Akamai analyzed data gathered from users of its web application firewall technology between November 2017 and March 2019. The exercise shows that SQL injection, SQLI, now represents nearly 2/3 of all web application attacks. That's up sharply from the 44% of web application layer attacks that SQLI represented just 2 years ago. The fact that so many web apps still have them reflects the relatively scant attention paid to security in the application development stage, says Andy Ellis, Chief Security Officer at Akamai. It is not that the developers are making errors, he said. It is the system that we put them into that is dangerous. Developers are under pressure to deliver code and are not given clear security guidelines and libraries to work with. How many people really understand how to write an application that can talk securely with the database in the back end? He notes, few developers can understand security so deeply that a security flaw would actually represent a mistake for them, Ellis says. You can dive deep into this analysis over at Dark Reading. Allison Danisco-Rayomi writes, Blockchain for drugs. IBM Walmart pilot prescription medication tracking. IBM, Walmart, KPMG, and Merck were chosen by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to run a pilot project using blockchain to identify, track, and trace prescription medications and vaccines distributed in the U.S., the companies announced Thursday. The pilot, in support of the U.S. Drug Supply Chain Security Act, is meant to explore the ways blockchain technology can quickly identify suspicious products and speed the recall process when needed for the future, according to a press release. Blockchain can improve the patient experience. allowing them to scan a barcode to immediately determine if a prescription is counterfeit, the release noted. The technology can also determine if drugs are stored at the required temperatures as they move through the supply chain. Our supply chain strategy, planning, and logistics are built around the customers and patients we serve, Craig Kennedy, Senior Vice President of Supply Chain at Merck, said in the release. Reliable and verifiable supply helps improve confidence among all the stakeholders we serve, especially patients, while also strengthening the foundation of our business, unquote. Working together, IBM, Merck, Walmart, and KPMG will create a shared permissioned blockchain network in which all can monitor prescription drugs and vaccines in real time. This is meant to reduce the time needed to track and trace inventory, increase the accuracy of data shared, and determine the integrity of products in the distribution chain, the release noted. IBM and Walmart already have blockchain pilots underway to trace food safety. You can read more about how the retail space is deploying blockchain technologies over at Tech Republic. Charlie Osborne writes, EFF asks for DOJ efforts to break Facebook encryption to be made public. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has landed in appeals court to see through a case which hopes to expose the U.S. government's anti-encryption tactics. On Wednesday, the civil rights group asked the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit to unseal documents relating to a ruling made by a judge to prevent the U.S. Department of Justice from forcing Facebook to purposefully break Facebook Messenger encryption protocols. The case, in which the EFF, American Civil Liberties Union, and Stanford cybersecurity expert Rihanna Pfefferkorn are taking on the DOJ, asks that documents are unsealed, which are keeping the details of the legal dispute between the DOJ and Facebook secret. Last year, the DOJ asked the social media giant to break encryption standards and therefore grant access to voice conversations made through Facebook Messenger. The request was made due to an investigation into the international MS-13 gang. The government should not be able to rely on a secret body of law for accessing encrypted communications and surveilling Americans, said EFF staff attorney Aaron Mackey. We are asking the court to rule that every American has a right to know about the rules governing who can access their private conversations. ZDNet has much more on this story. My take? In the pursuit for freedom, there is a natural antagonism between extremes. In a court system, we see two paid liars who argue on behalf of their respective clients. They must use the facts at their disposal to pull opinion one way or the other. The judge is there to ensure that neither lawyer breaks the rules of the playfield. But somehow, from amidst this chaos rises, we hope, the truth of the matter in the eyes of the jury, so that justice may be rendered for the parties involved and society at large. The founders intended for our system to be patiently deliberative. It ensures dialogue, it eschews momentary passions, and insists on a lumbering mechanism to keep mob rule at bay. We have a purposeful representative republic, if we can keep it. We see this process in the constant debate between security and freedom, whether it is the federal government's job to protect us in cyberspace or if that role belongs to experts from the private sector. If we demand the government protect us in a cyber war, what civil liberties might we lose? Is it worth the price? Or does the government outsource this job Blackwater style to make sure we're safe? If so, who ensures there is no friendly fire incident? And if one occurs, what assurances do we have that responsibility will be assigned and justice done? And who decides what coalitions will be formed with foreign entities who might tomorrow be our enemy? We see this process in play in politics too. Two big old parties playing football with the future, never reaching an end zone for the promised touchdown. But we keep cheering for one team or the other, perfectly at ease, knowing security cleared everyone to enter the sporting arena, right? If you are ill at ease with politics, get my latest track, The Dirty Deeds Playbook is available now for pre-order at just $2.99 as a pre-launch price for Kindle. The paperback is shipping now for a few bucks more. It's a satirical field manual for using fools and fanatics to sow chaos in American elections for 2020 and beyond. You can subscribe free to this blog, the RSS feed, listen with the Amazon skill for your flash briefing, or podcast available on Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Apple, or watch with BitChute, Facebook, or YouTube. And if you like, you can support your tech moment with some merch. Have a great Thursday, everyone. See you next time.